Hello and a very warm welcome to Accenture Presents ETStudios Digital Compass in association with ETCIO. I'm your host Divina Lasson. Now on today's episode, we're going to deep dive into artificial intelligence and is it the new co-pilot for building a digital society? I'd like to warmly welcome our guest today, Anjali Rathore, CDO, HDFC Bank. Welcome.
Thank you, Divina.
It's a
pleasure to be here.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to have you. And Pranav Arora, MD, Accenture India.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Gentlemen, such a warm welcome, and it's really a pleasure to have this conversation with you. I'd like to invite you just to say a few lines, a little introduction to yourselves and the topic that we are here to discuss today, and how artificial intelligence is here to be the new co-pilot for building a digital society. Pranav, we can start with you.
Yeah, thanks a lot. So I'm Pranav Arora. I'm the Managing Director for Applied Intelligence in India. Basically, I work across industries looking at how AI can help transform industries and help them undergo what we call a total enterprise reinvention. Primarily, I work in the financial service space. That's where my expertise lies. That's where I've been working in the last decade or so. On the topic of AI, the co-pilot, I think it's a very appropriate term. I sometimes think it's not just the co-pilot, it's also the plane. Because if you think about AI and what it can do for productivity for everyone, it is both a tool and an enabler. I mean, I think everyone has now been exposed to ChatGPT and how it can change content creation, not just content creation, but also, building new code, all of that. So I think, and this is just the edge, I think every knowledge-based function, every knowledge-based industry is going to go through a transformation, be it doctors, be it any specialized team, content production like this. And I think we are up for some very exciting times. I think the future will look very different in maybe 3 to 5 years than it is today.
Wow, wonderful. That's a very exciting vision to kickstart this conversation with. Anjali, let's bring you in on this. A small introduction, please, and your vision as well.
So I'm the Chief Digital Officer for HDFC Bank. I come from outside of the industry, so I come from telecom. Have been having an outside-in perspective on the capabilities that we have. Banking is leveraging technology in a very futuristic manner. We are trying to bring in technology in all aspects of banking. Applications, APIs, and analytics are the 3 A's that we are clearly working on to make things very different here. As we work towards it, we are seeing that applications and analytics will, over a period of time, be an equalizer for almost everyone. So that's the enabler. The differentiator is going to come from who is able to analyze the tons of data that is getting generated and how we can use this data to make things easier for our customers. And clearly in the banking and financial services, we are using data from 4 different perspectives actually. First is, of course, for credit underwriting. So lending is a big task which is ahead of us, and how do you underwrite almost every qualified citizen in the country? So there are various sources of data that flows in together. How it can be used to underwrite is a lot of analytics and AI, ML work that goes into it. The other area is personalization. So when you come to the bank versus when Pranav comes to the bank or anybody else comes to the bank, how do we recognize you? How do we personalize any conversation that is happening with you is also very important. The third area is risk when you're transacting in the digital world. Now, all of a sudden, everybody moves into the digital world, but we are dealing here with money. And when you deal with money, it's important to have risk mitigants in place. So how do we use analytics to identify that it is Divina, and she's actually right now in Indonesia and trying to access her net banking to do a transaction, versus there is some hacker who is sitting and is trying to do the same thing. So risk and analytics is another big area. And lastly, for financial services, reporting, there's a lot of data that gets generated within the organization. So how do we use that information to have a much more seamless interface for our customers is what we use data for.
Wow, fantastic. Well, we're going to deep dive into, as you just mentioned, the 3 A's that are the pillars for your technology evolution within the company. But before that, Pranav, I'd like to ask you, in one of Accenture's latest reports, Build to Scale, You've made a statement about how, according to studies, it indicates that AI is quite challenging. The vision of the growth of AI is quite challenging for most companies to move beyond the POC stage into really scaling up to an industrial level. Let's get your thoughts and views on this.
Yeah. I mean, I think that it is the situation right now. I think what the study uncovers is that here's the current situation, that a large number of companies are typically in POC stage. A few of them have, started strategically scaling, which is basically they have built the infra, they have got the right team, they've got the vision and all. And there's a very few set of people who are, basically scaling with AI. I think we've done another iteration of the study, which should hit the markets soon. It's called a Report on AI Maturity. And, the trend continues. So the trend is that, hey, AI is super important. I mean, if you look at the number of CEOs who talk about AI in their annual reports, look at the number of conversations around AI in the transcripts of analyst calls and all, that's very significant. It's on top of mind for all CEOs, but very few companies have yet been able to, get to a place where they are really leveraging AI. I think a lot of them are stuck in this quagmire of POCs. Yes. And so that's just the reality today. We are seeing an improvement, but that's where the industry is today. And that's true actually across industries. A couple of companies have managed to scale one or two use cases, so we call them AI differentiators, but AI achievers who have the foundation in place and have, like probably the way Anjani was describing it, using AI for across the life cycle, that's really, really few and far between. In fact, in my experience, I'm yet to come across a company in India right now which is really doing it at that scale.
Wow. Interesting. So, Anjani, we must bring you in at this point. As we've just heard Pranav describe the difference between people who are really achieving and scaling in their AI projects. Let's hear about your organization's journey so far and where you stand today.
So we are using AI significantly today in our ecosystem. But having said that, this is just the tip of the iceberg. The capability that is ahead of us, the transformation which is possible is very, very big. Let's take the example of risk analytics. If you use our credit card, let's say late at night for doing a transaction on internet, or it's a big number that you are transacting, you will immediately get a call from one of our centers, which will talk about, is it you who's using it, or if you travel, go to a different location. A lot of that is driven with the analytics and the AI ML engine that we have. When you call our contact center, there is a bot that greets you 24/7. It is able to respond to certain simpler queries right now. I wouldn't say that everything is taken care of, but a significant part of the calls get digitally deflected. It doesn't go to the agent. So that's on the customer experience side and risk side. When it comes to personalization, if you come to our website, what you see is different from when I go to the same website. Because people who have come there before, there is a lot of information available, whether you are existing to bank or a new to bank customer, there is a different set of data available. So some of that is being used to ensure that we are able to service our customers 24/7 in the same personalized manner. We today have a base of about 80 million customers, but we are building capability to be ready for the next 100 million that are going to come into the bank fold.
Inspiring. Let's talk a little bit about the challenges associated as well. Pranav, what can you share with us about the ROI? Because after all, we are talking vast amount of investment that goes into really applying AI solutions. What are the challenges that organizations are facing today when it comes to getting satisfactory ROI?
No, so I don't think that the ROI is that much of a challenge. I think especially the first order effect. So let's think about ROI in two parts: the first order effects and all the subsequent order. So let's say a use case that Anjani talked about, which is in transaction for a credit card to detect frauds. Yes. Now the first order effect of that, which is how have I been able to reduce the number of frauds? I think that is very easy to capture in the ROI. What becomes very difficult to capture is that, hey, now because I have had lesser frauds, what's been the impact on my acquisition or in my customer subsequent transactions or in my brand name. I think those become messier to calculate because there are, multiple conflicting influences. It's not always possible to have a universal control group, etc. But I think the first order effects are quite easy and quite direct to measure. The challenge, however, becomes that sometimes for AI, you need to take a little bit of a platform mindset. I mean, think of it like building a bridge. You can't build a part of a bridge. You can't do a POC on a bridge. And then, how do you kind of justify that entire bridge? So you need to think about how you kind of at least acknowledge the subsequent order effects also for the firm to take the leap in building that bridge.
So when it comes to, as you've just said, building the bridge and building the entire ecosystem and infrastructure required, what would you say, Anjani, it takes to really sort of create scale on your AI projects in your experience?
See, for us, we look at AI or digital technologies holistically. It is not just about, we used to spend so much of technology earlier. What is the spend now? Because if you look at that, then the spend definitely goes up big time. But that's not what we are looking at. We are looking at establishing a very different operating model. Earlier, in a bank, when you have 100 customers, there would be some calls coming into the call center because we couldn't service or there was a challenge with the customer. So there is a customer care which is there. When you do a transaction, some of them fail. So there is an operations team which is there. Now, if you add up all these things, then you have a bank which has got various departments doing different things, and technology is enabling that. But the way technology becomes differentiator, and that is where AI comes into play, is that can we create a capability where a customer is able to reach out to us 24/7, and there is a machine that they are conversing with and it offers them the same seamless experience. Then we don't need to take this customer care team to 2x, 3x as my customer base grows. If there are no failures, or if there is a failure, can it be cured automatically? Then you don't need such a large operations team managing that day in and day out. So unless we bring in that full, life cycle thinking, it's very difficult to say that it becomes a differentiator. And that's where, while it takes a little more longer time to deliver, but when it is established, it makes a big impact on the organization.
So what can you tell us as a summary of your vision and mission when it comes to AI adoption, and what's the buy-in here?
Well, if you look at it, retail banking, because it touches all of us, it's a very simple business. We reach out to the citizens, they keep their money safe with a bank, and banks then lend that same money to people who need it. So it's a very simple operating model which is there. Can we have a method in which the entire bank can run on technology, where people can open an account from wherever they are seamlessly without walking into a bank branch? Phones people are comfortable with. So can you open a savings account? Can you keep your money there? Whenever you need, can the bank lend you instantly? Whether you are buying a consumer goods or you want to spend for a travel, is it available instantly? And then it's a 24/7, anytime, any channel. You can come through social media, you can come through text channel, you can walk into a bank branch, you can call us. It's always available 24/7. And it keeps it in such a safe manner that you are assured that your money is safe. So this whole thing, if we can enable it using technology, that'll be really great.
Oh, fantastic.
Can I just add something?
Yes, please.
So a couple of years ago, I wrote this piece around the human plus machine bank. And that was basically, in a way articulating what Anjani is saying. And what basically I said over there was that, hey, if the first frontier was digital, making everything digital, the second productivity frontier after that is basically this human plus machine bank, where you have a human workforce and an AI workforce. And the AI workforce is the productivity multiplier. So think of the person who's doing credit underwriting. Instead of one, he's doing 1 million credit underwriting because he's operating at a rule level. Instead of checking for one fraud or one suspicious transaction report, he checks for 1 million. So that's the human plus machine bank, which has become even more possible now, I think, with all the advances in AI that have happened in the last year or so. And when maybe there's another productivity frontier, which is going to be around the decentralized autonomous bank, which is going towards Web3, which may come from the corporate side first, unlike the other revolutions which have come retail first.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, great. Thank you for sharing that. And so when we talk about customer experience and the sort of experience economy, as it says we are in at the moment, customer expectations are for things to be instant, as you've mentioned, safe, and just as easy and accessible as it takes. So, Anjani, what can you share with us about the role of AI in the customer experience, and how have you at HDFC really applied the technology and the learnings to advance the customer experience?
So, I'll just borrow from one of the big industrialists who said that data is the new oil. In the digital world, everybody will be able to build applications. That is a given. With low-code platforms coming in, it's becoming increasingly easier to build applications. But what application is meant for which person, and how can it be made so seamless and contextual that you see things differently, the same bank as somebody else sees? That is possible only with a lot of data which is available. And we are running models on top of that data for underwriting. So when we give loan to, say, one entity, it is at a different interest rate versus another entity which could be at a different interest rate. It's based on data and the analytics which is there. That's on the underwriting side. Likewise, on personalization, maybe when you come on to our net banking or website, you see a personal loan, somebody else will see a consumer durable loan, which is very, very different. This is again based on the data that we have. Likewise on risk and other kinds of personalization. So this is what differentiates one entity from the other. And that's where data and AI ML comes handy in a big way.
Yeah. And in your personal experience at HDFC, can you share some of the things that have really worked when it comes to enhancing the customer experience and the customer journey?
Well, we have been working continuously towards improving customer experience, and we've built several applications now which has made life simpler. Just like earlier when you would buy a toaster, there would be a manual along with it, so you know how to operate that toaster. Nowadays we get smartphones which are much more expensive, much more complex, but there's no manual. You do a start and then it just guides you through. So we are making and working towards making banking as simple. So you come onto any digital property, be it our payments app, Pays app, or our mobile and net banking, and you engage with us in a seamless manner. Very easily you are able to get to the kind of product that you are looking at, and you are able to take it. We are significantly changing the customer interface around service and care. So today we use analytics and data to personalize when you call at our call center. So we recognize who you are from the device that you are calling. And if you speak, we understand your language. You could be speaking in English or in Hindi or in vernacular. And we are able to respond back to you based on your preferred language. And this is all possible with the technology and the analytics which is going in.
Fantastic. Pranav, let's deep dive further into this subject of data and the impact of data and the way in which AI can impact organizations. It is said that a strategic scaler when it comes to AI application is just getting as much data in as possible. Yet at the same time, there's a lot of unwanted data out there too. So how do we sort of sift through the useful and the unwanted? And how does this ultimately impact the bottom line and the efficiency of AI in your experience?
yeah. No, so I think the choice of what data sets is probably the easy one. I think before any company tries to look at any esoteric data sets, they're very clear and simple data sets that they need to unlock within their organization and in the ecosystem. So for example, for a bank, unlocking the data that is sitting in their core system, in their payment systems, in their marketing systems, in which customer came where, what did he browse at, etc. What is sitting with the RMs. I think first unlocking the data within their ecosystem and bringing it to one place is the first one. I think then marrying it with the external data. So again, in the external data, let's say for banking, the choices are fairly clear. You know that you want to kind of look at firmographic data. You know you want a network model between the different promoters of companies and things like that. So the choice of data sets is, I don't think so, is the challenge. I think the challenge is in building that enterprise data lake or data mesh or whichever architecture to be able to, unlock data from source systems for each of these and create analytical records which bring this data together. So it's partly an engineering problem. I think the strategic decision from a business is or direction from business is quite clear. Hey, these are the ones we know, we have identified. But I think the engineering challenge in getting there is quite significant, because while it's easy to say that this data is in the source system, the way it exists, the way records are added or appended is quite complex, and the logic of matching that. So I think it's an engineering challenge, and it's something that does require a fair bit of effort.
Right. Can you share in your experience some examples of successful AI applications, whether it comes from the point of view of the engineering aspect, as you've just mentioned, or maybe customer experience, some success stories that you could highlight?
Oh yeah, there are lots of them. One of them I'm in love with currently is we have just started using a large language model for code review. So one of the challenges was that when you're writing new code, you needed to comply to a certain amount of security. You need to comply to a guideline, the format in which the code is being written. And, I think this is the first step. So I think the large language models are quite new. And I think the speed at which we've been able to apply them is quite great. Another example, probably, and this is maybe a little bit further back, this is for a bank where we actually developed, used AI to forecast the core balances. So banks basically, depending upon what's the core balance, they have to borrow the rest to fulfill those funds, and they can't deploy that in the market. So getting your core balance prediction right is quite important, because the tighter that forecast, the more your ability to deploy extra funds. So we worked with the bank, and we were able to marry all the data, internal and external data, the holidays, what sale is happening, what is happening at your key corporate clients, build all of those linkages using AI. And we were able to release a massive amount of money for the bank to deploy in the market, because we could get the forecast so much better. So AI can have really, really tangible impact. And I think that there are probably dozens of stories that keep happening in Accenture every day, just given our scale.
Yeah, absolutely. So, gentlemen, we're here today to kind of bring it all together, to talk about how AI can potentially be the co-pilot in driving digital society, change, innovation, and unlocking creative potential amongst people, which is increasingly accessible for everyone. So, your views on that, and how really AI moving forward is going to be used to be this co-pilot of change. Anjani?
So AI definitely is an integral part of the digital economy. This is going to be the co-pilot, and if not more than that. We are already seeing advantages of using AI, at least in our customer service. Whether you reach us through any of the channels which are available, we are able to recognize who you are and are able to serve you. So it is possible that you called a call center and we were not able to help you. You were upset. You then texted us, we did not respond to it. You walked into a bank branch, we did not serve you to your satisfaction, and therefore you went to the internet world and tweeted that we are not a good service provider. Now, with this kind of a capability that exists today, it is possible to identify how well we are servicing you through each of the channels, and also predict that you are not a happy customer, you might be moving out, or you are a happy customer but you're looking for something else that we can serve. So the kind of insights that we can get now is much higher. I must confess that while we have started using it, the potential is huge. We just need to ensure that we stay the course. We are able to serve you on all fronts, and the data that gets generated is used in the right manner. It's a lot of information, so we need to be very careful in terms of what needs to be used, and judiciously it has to be used. Otherwise, the whole internet is available with so many billions of information set, but not everything could be relevant.
And just finally, where would you say you at HDFC stand today when it comes to the investments you've already made in your AI initiatives and how this impacts the customer at the end of the day?
So we are making big investments in technology. In fact, we have a stated goal of being a technology-led financial services firm. We are making big investments all across, whether it is in reinforcing the core or the middleware or all the engagement models, including analytics and data and AI services. So that we are definitely doing it, and we are seeing some good results coming out of it as well in some of the programs that are going live. So we are more encouraged by it, and we just need to stay the course and ensure that this whole transformation is complete.
Fantastic, thank you. Let's get you in on this, Pranav.
So I think, broadly, it's going to have a very big impact on society as a whole. Three parts, right, will help us do. Obviously, solve problems faster. I mean, think about AI, building a model. Now you can literally ask ChatGPT to give you the code for a recommender system, right? So it'll allow you to solve known problems faster. It'll help you solve new problems, right? Problems that we do not have a view of solving. You will be able to basically kind of innovate with AI and help it find new solutions. We've seen AI doing it, right? Whether it's the protein folding problem or others, AI has solved problems which humans have not been able to solve, right? Either through brute force or through generative, right? So solve new problems. That's also going to accelerate. And third is, it's just going to democratize innovation in a way. Now, think about the number of creators for images that have gone up since Midjourney or DALL-E came in, right? So and that's just text to image. You're going to have text to video. You're going to have text to audio. You're going to have all of these things happening quite soon. I mean, text to Figma, text to code, all of that's going to happen. So you're going to have this completely, huge number of people who are going to enter into the creator space. So someone had tweeted about it that, hey, what's going to happen is that you're going to get from maybe 100 million, maybe 50 million programmers to 1.2 billion programmers, because basically you can now, program using large language models or new forms of AI, and there are tools which are being built on top of it. So you're going to have this massive explosion of creative energy. I mean, it's going to be like the first time internet came in and you had all these people writing blogs and new views happening. So you're going to have this big creator economy. From companies' perspective, it's a challenging time because they need to find a way to move fast enough to harness it, or they're going to face, challenges. And these challenges may not necessarily be that they will get disrupted like Kodak did, but it might be other order effects, right? Not necessarily disruption of that scale. So that's one challenge. The other challenge is obviously going to be on, which I personally think is going to be the whole accounting challenge in the economy, right? Now think about it, the way we have produced this content with all the support and all the buildings and all, and tomorrow it would be possible for us actually to have just emailed the script to each other or do that conversation, and the whole everything would have gotten kind of generated nearly automatically. So what happens is that more value in the economy or less value, because from a GDP perspective, you're going to have a few things which are not going to get counted. So it's interesting time. You've got this massive creative energy being unleashed, but it's going to come with its set of challenges.
And therefore, on the people who are there within these organizations, reskilling is also which is going to happen. So let's look at with ChatGPT, prompt engineering is something which is coming up big time. So how you ask a question is a skill. It's a science as well as an art, because that is what gives you the answer. So asking a question also becomes important, and the way you answer, the way you ask a question is so critical. So everybody needs to then get trained on how you do prompt engineering to get the right answer from a bot. So those are the kind of skills that will come in handy as we go forward.
So where do you think India stands today when it comes to having a skilled workforce? And is this a big challenge you foresee companies having?
We are blessed to be in India right now. India is making so much of investment into digital infrastructure, or so-called digital public goods. If you look at financial services, we have innovations like UPI, which is coming out. We have OCEN, ONDC. Now, these are very innovative ways of extending financial services to citizens, making it much, much simpler. So with UPI, the kind of transactions that we do for making payments, you just scan and pay. It's so simple. It's not so easy to do it in every part of the world. But India is able to do that, and it's growing very fast. Likewise, Oken is allowing lending to happen on digital rails in a much simpler manner. So imagine you are a small-time street vendor, you need some money over the weekend to buy some goods. You are able to do that, and when you sell those goods next week, you are able to pay it back. These are the things which are possible. With ONDC, it's challenging commerce in a digital ecosystem. So these are the kind of things which is happening, and all this is being driven with data and analytics, and AI, ML will come in handy in a big way to make these things happen. So a lot of work is happening, and we just need to take advantage of what is there right now to change the customer experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we wrap up, Pranav, let's just get you in on this. And where do we stand in India when it comes to having the adequate skilled workforce? And how do you see the landscape moving forward?
Yeah, so I think that the raw material is plentiful in a way. I mean, if you think about it, you would be hard-pressed to find a college, an engineering college or an MBA, which doesn't have AI, data science, data engineering, and all of these courses kind of part of its curriculum. So now, you have this huge plethora of workforce which is familiar with these concepts, but they're not necessarily industry ready or industry productive. So the role of industry, and industry cannot deny the responsibility of actually taking them from that base raw material to making them really productive in the industry. I think we do that quite a lot because we obviously have a massive talent need, and we invest quite aggressively over a fairly long period, even 12 to 18 months, to take people. I mean, it doesn't take them that long to be productive, but that's the journey that they kind of go through in the organization. So I think the raw material is plentiful, and it's probably increasing. Maybe 5 years ago, it was much more difficult to find people with some of these skills. Right now, I think that the young kids that are coming in are very well educated on the basics of all of these concepts. Industry definitely needs to help them shape up and help them make the shift from academic to organization in a way.
All right, gentlemen, on that note, thank you so much for being here with us today and sharing all your insights and really shedding light on where we stand today with AI and how it's going to be the co-pilot as we're discussing in building a digital society. Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, well, that's all we have for you today on this episode, but do stay tuned to Accenture Presents ET's Digital Campus together with ETCIO. We have a lot more in-depth conversations for you, so stay tuned.